got finals coming up, and the spring thaw release is on May 5th soon, and we've got the Dean's List dinner tomorrow. So we really appreciate you coming out to support our talent show, because as performers, it's so important to have an opportunity to actually have the upcoming anticipation of an audience, because that helps you practice your skills and gives you something to look forward to. So thank you very much. We've got a lineup that's pretty eclectic and exciting tonight. We've got a comedian, chemist, a creative writer, and we have some singers and musicians. So first off, I'd like to just say some thank yous. Thank you to Kim Damiani for getting the word out to the students, to helping with refreshments and all of that. I just totally appreciate you so much. Thank you, Kim. Thank you to Scott Williams for helping us set up sound and all this equipment up here. And thank you to Brandon Anderson for helping us get lights up in the theater and helping us just get this look and feel like we're really putting on a show. So I would like to also thank you, first of all, for being here. And I'm first off going to welcome to the stage Gordy Savala with jokes.
Hi, my name's Gordy. I have never done this before. I'm not a comedian, but I do tell jokes in class from time to time, and they've been fairly well received over the years, and we thought, well, maybe we could plug me in for 15 minutes or so here so I could go through some of them. I've been teaching 31 years, and I'll be retiring in 2 weeks after finals, and there's been a countdown of sorts, and I don't have class on Friday, so I only have 7 days left, but it occurred to me that I really only have 6 because I took tomorrow off because the dog needs a haircut. So I live on the lake, and I had to put the dock in. I do every year. I put it in as soon as possible just because you want to maximize the amount of dock time you get. But I have the old school dock with the stanchions and the bolts and the sections that have to be, and it's about a 4-hour ordeal. And I was out there last week after the ice went out, and all of a sudden the neighbor was putzing in the yard. He came over, and he was like, "Gord, you sound frustrated, and I just saw you throw your wedding ring in the lake." He said, "What's up?" I said, "It's not a big deal." He said, "Well, I just talked to your wife, Amy, up there, and she seemed fine. What's the deal with the ring?" And I said, "Well, the water's 33 degrees, and I just dropped my tape measure in there, and I'm not going in there just for that." And my wife Amy the other day, she asked me why I look so sad. I had some depression coming on, and it's about retirement. And I said, "No, it's just thoughtful times." And she said, "Well, what is it?" And I said, "I was just thinking about that day back when we were 18 years old, when your dad caught us in your bedroom, and he said, 'Marry her or it's 40 years in prison.'" And she looked at me and she says, "Well, why are you thinking about that?" And I said, "Well, today's the day I would have been released." I do some public performance stuff on the theater group, and I was in a production once, and this woman showed up, and she had plucked her eyebrows bare. And the director said, "You're gonna need to paint some eyebrows on." So she came back to rehearsal the next day, and they were painted way up here, like inch high. So the director said, "Your eyebrows are really high." And she looked surprised. So, my mother's up there in age, and she had to go for her annual doctor thing on her birthday last month. And the doc said, she's in pretty good shape, but she should start walking, and that maybe she should walk 5 miles a day. So I checked in with her the other night, and I said, "Mom, how's it going?" She said, "Well, I feel fine, but I'm 160 miles from home." Here's a simpler one. Did you hear about the two antennas that got married?
No.
The ceremony was awful, but the reception was fantastic. And then there's a time, my friend Tim brought his golf clubs to his wedding. And his wife gets after him and he says, "What, this thing's gonna take all day?" Speaking of golf, my neighbor would go golfing every Thursday at Men's League. And he'd leave about 5 o'clock and come back about 9. And so a couple weeks in, and this van started showing up. Juan's Home Improvement. I thought, that's weird. And every Thursday, 6 o'clock, the van would show up. So I tipped him off. And he came home one day and he says, "I'm gonna take care of this." And he goes in the house and there's a little bit of commotion. He comes out and he says, "That's done." And I said, "What'd you do?" He said, "I used my golf gun." "A golf gun? What's a golf gun? How does that work?" He says, "I don't know how it works, but it sure made a big hole in one." Okay. So the Baptist church was looking for members, and they interviewed a few couples, and they said, we want to welcome you in, but we want to make sure you're pious and all that. So the requirement is that you go 2 weeks without having sex. So they came back in 2 weeks, and the older couple sat down. He asked, "How did that go?" He said, "No problem at all. 2 weeks came and went, didn't even think about it. It's great." The middle-aged couple came in. He said, "How'd it go?" He said, "Well, the first week was pretty easy. Second week got rather tough. So we decided to sleep in separate bedrooms and we made it." Then the young couple in their 20s came in, and that's how it went. He said, "Well, not well. He barely made it through the first day, and the second day, she was reaching up the top shelf for a light bulb, and she dropped it. And she bent over, and I was looking at her, and I just couldn't control myself, and we made love right on the floor." And then the guy says, "Well, I'm sorry, you're not welcome in the Baptist church then." He said, "Well, that's okay. We're not welcome in the hardware store anymore either." So I was raised Lutheran, and I ended up going to the University of Notre Dame, which you may know is a Catholic school. And I heard the story about confession. And this young guy goes into confession and says, "Forgive me, Father, for I've sinned." And he says, "What is it, my son?" He said, "It was I behaved very improperly with a young lady." And the priest says, "Was that Mary then?" He says, "No." He says, "Was it Sheila then?" "No." "Was it Amy then?" He says, "No." And the priest says, "Okay, give you 5 Our Fathers and 4 Hail Marys and go in peace." So he gets back to the pew and his buddy says, "Well, what'd you get?" He says, 5 Our Fathers, 4 Hail Marys, and 3 pretty good leads. So another Notre Dame confessional story. I was curious about what it was like. So I went in there late Saturday night in the Basilica and kind of snuck in and sat in there and looked around, and then there's this commotion. And 2 drunk guys come in. And they're stumbling around, and I hear one of them say, "It's over there." So I hear the guy get in, one next to me, and he's making a lot of racket, and then he's really upset. And he knocks on the wall. He says, "Is there any toilet paper on your side?" Sorry. I only have a few more. A woman was given 6 months to live. So her doctor says, "I can't do much for you, but I recommend that you marry an accountant and move to Fargo." And she says, "Well, why on earth would I do that if it's not going to help me?" He says, "Well, it's not going to help you, but 6 months is going to seem like an eternity." Speaking of North Dakota, I had to go over to NDSU one time, and I went in there, and there were people jumping on the tables and music blasting, they're partying, they're swinging from the lights and whatnot. And I stopped one of them. I said, "What's the deal? What are you celebrating?" They said, "We finished our puzzle." I'm like, "You finished your puzzle?" He said, "Yeah, it only took us 2 months." I said, "Well, 2 months to do a puzzle, that's no big." He said, on the side of the box, it said 3 to 4 years. I was at the bus station in St. Paul one time, and they're calling out the departures. Said, "Bus for Duluth leaves at 2. Bus for St. Cloud leaves at 2:30. Bus for Fargo leaves when the big hand's on the 12 and the little hand's on the 3. Guy walks up, a few walk into the bar, Joe. So a guy walks into the bar and he's the only one. He sits down and he hears a voice. "That's a nice tie." A little while later, he said, "Boy, that haircut looks great." "Where'd you get that shirt? I love it." Yes, the bartender says, "Is that you saying that?" He said, "No, it's these peanuts. They're complimentary." And a bear walks into the bar. And the bear comes into the bar and he says, "I'll have a beer and some chips." And the bartender says, "Why the big pause?" One more bar joke. So a sailor walks into the bar and there's a pirate there. And the pirate's got a peg leg and he's got a hooked arm and a patch on his eye, and he says, "Man, you look like you got a rough go." The pirate says, "Yeah, we were off of Bermuda in a bad storm and I fell off and a shark bit my leg off." He says, "Then a while later I was dueling someone in Port Royal. He sliced my arm off and I need to get a hook. And then on a nice day a seagull flies over and poops in the eye." He says, "A seagull pooped in your eye, how'd that hurt your vision?" He said, "Well, it was the day after I got my hook." So 2 guys are walking their dogs, and same thing. Hot day, they want to get a drink, so they go look, and there's a bar there, and there's a sign on the door that says, "No dogs allowed." So the guy's got a German Shepherd, puts his sunglasses, you watch it, puts his sunglasses on, and goes, and the guy says, "No dogs allowed, you can't come in there." And the guy says, "Oh, it's a seeing eye dog." The guy says, "Oh, seeing eye dog, you can go right in." So the other guy's like, "Okay, I'll put mine." He puts his sunglasses on, walks up to the door, and the bouncer says, "No dogs allowed." He says, "So I seeing eye dog." He says, "See, a Chihuahua is a seeing eye dog?" And the guy says, "What, they gave me a Chihuahua?" 3 more. You ever wonder why the word phonetic isn't spelled with an F? Some are thoughtful jokes. French Revolution, I tell this in honor of my friend Aaron Wenger, who started our engineering department. They had the guillotine back then. And the way it worked was for the beheading, if the guillotine malfunctioned, it was considered divine intervention and the person was set free. So the first person on there is a peasant, and they pull the cord and the blade stops halfway. They said, "Well, you're free to go. Divine intervention." And then the tax collector went on there and pulled the string and it stopped halfway. He says, "You're free to go. Divine intervention." And then the engineer gets on there and he says, "Ask if you can lie face up." And they're just ready to pull the string, and he says, "Oh, I think I see your problem." Last one. This is my favorite joke of all time. There's this old Finnish farmer out in Wadena County, and he's on his deathbed upstairs. He's got COPD and arthritis, and he can hardly breathe and he can hardly move. And then he smells some rhubarb pie. And rhubarb pie is his favorite thing in the world. And he somehow manages to get out of the bed and gets to the floor and he crawls across the floor and one step at a time painstakingly makes it downstairs and he gets to the kitchen and he's locked in. He can smell that rhubarb pie and he gets to the table and he's reaching up and he's just got his hand, he's pulling his head up to smell the rhubarb pie and wham! Gets whacked across the hand with a wooden spoon. And it's his wife and she says, "That's for after the funeral." That's all I got.
Thank you, Gordy. All right, next up we have our creative writer, Andrew. Come on up. Want this? Or this? Okay.
Good afternoon. So, like what Chelsey said, I'm doing a creative writing. It's just a small excerpt from a novel I'm working on. Hope that get published one day. Still a long ways till I'm done with it. So, let's see here. Small excerpt from chapter 2, June 9th, 1922. A man was getting ready to go hunting for the time being. He was excited to go on his hunting gig for a few weeks. He was putting some of his stuff into the back of his Ford Ranger, like his good hunting bow, a pair of good sunglasses, a vest, a hat, and a small shotgun if you need for encountering more dangerous animals on the way. Then someone came outside of the home he lived in. It was his wife, Maria. "Mick," she said. "Yes, Maria?" asked Mick. "I hope you are safe when you are out hunting today," she said. "I am going to be safe," said Mick. "Nothing's going to happen when I'm at the hunting area at the Chiflow Trail. It's just, I heard that there's some missing hikers that went missing yesterday in that area. There's a crime scene and there might be something out there that took them," stated Maria. "I'll be fine," said Mick. "There's nothing bad out there. Just take care out there," said worried Maria. So Mick hugged her and got into his Ford Ranger. As he was driving to the hunting area, he was thinking about what she said about the missing hikers. Missing hikers, crime scene, something out there. Maria's getting a little too protective. There's nothing bad out there. But he was wrong. A few minutes later, so Mick finally got to the hunting area at the Chiflow Trail. He parked and grabbed his hunting stuff and left his ranger to do some hunting. He was ready to get a nice animal so he could put it in his animal collection back at home. He walked around for a bit, went down a trail where there was the designated area for hunters. Something is off about this area. Normally there's some animals that are scurrying around, but there wasn't a single animal that ran in front of Mick. So Mick kept walking around until he finds an animal. It was strange. There was not even a sound to be heard. Then out of the blue, he actually saw something. It was a person. Mick tried to get their attention, but the person ran right past him. He kept running until the person was out of sight. That's strange, he thought. Why was he running? But anyways, Mick kept on walking. It got a little cold in the area. Doesn't make any sense. Why was he getting cold in the hunting area? That's a little strange, he thought. So a few minutes went by. Mick was still walking around and still could not see an animal anywhere. He was actually considering just to go home and just call the hunting trip off until he heard something. It sounded like a person saying some words. So Mick followed the source of the voice and found a person that was curled up on the ground near some rocks. Why was this person all alone in the middle of nowhere? As Mick got closer, he actually recognized the person. It was one of the missing hikers. The hiker was repeating this phrase over and over again. "Don't let it get you." Hey, said Mick. "You're one of the missing hikers that went missing yesterday." Then the hiker saw him, got up, walked to him, and said, Leave while you still can. It got my friend. Mick was actually confused. Why does he need me to leave? And what got his friend? What got your friend? I can help you find your friend if it's actually serious, said Mick. You don't understand, said the nervous hiker. It got him. You need to leave while you still can. Then the hiker saw something behind Mick. The hiker ran on whatever he actually saw behind the boulder, or behind Mick. Mick was really confused. Then he looked at wherever the hiker saw. Then, behind a large boulder, was an arm and a hand sticking out behind the boulder. Something wasn't right about the hand and the arm. Then, whatever was behind the boulder revealed itself and ran straight towards Mick. Mick started to run as fast as he could. With his hunting bow and shotgun, he was about to shoot on wherever this thing was, but it was running so fast he couldn't shoot it. So Mick kept on running. He was running with every ounce of air he has. Wherever this thing was, it was still chasing Mick and would not give up. Then Mick was far away from the thing and hid behind a large sign that greeted hunters to the hunting area. He stopped to get some air as this thing was getting closer with its intangible noises. Mick was about to run when he saw what was written behind on the sign. It said, "Don't let it take you alive." Mick assumed that the hiker wrote this. As the monster got closer, Mick started to make a run for it to his Ford Ranger. As he was running, he could see his Ranger in the distance. What Mick didn't realize that there was a small cliffside that separated the parking spot and where the hunting area was. So when he got to the cliffside, he had an option to either jump or cross the bridge. If he crossed the bridge, the monster would still follow him, but if he jumped, the monster won't follow him, but might get injured. It wasn't that far of a jump. It was about like a 5 to 10 meter jump from where he was at. Then Mick made the choice to jump down and hope that the thing won't follow him. He jumped down and luckily landed in some thick bushes that cushioned his fall. He heard the monster from above, got up, and hid right behind some cliffs, the cliff wall, so it couldn't see him. It looked around for a bit, then left. This doesn't make any sense. Why was this thing here? What could I want? And most importantly, what is this thing? It sounded like a person, but it couldn't be. So Mick started to make his way to his Ford Ranger. He picked up his stuff and started to walk. Everything was hurting after his fall, but nothing was broken. It took him a while to get to his Ford Ranger. He put all his stuff in the back, got in, and started the engine. Mick drove off, hoping that this thing didn't see him. When he got up from the bottom of the cliff, he had so many questions. Where did that hiker go when he saw that thing? But Mick didn't want to think about it when he was far away from the hunting site. What a fun hunting trip that was. And this concludes my excerpt.
All right, next up we have a couple of singers and a musician, Cameron Headland Wilder, Olivia Martin, and Mackenzie Worms.
He's an awesome God he reigns from heaven above with wisdom power. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God he reigns from heaven
awake while the world is sound asleep, and too afraid of what might show up while you're dreaming. Nobody sees you. Nobody will believe you.
Every day I try to pick up all the pieces, all the memories they said I'll never leave ya. Nobody sees you. Nobody will believe you.
God only knows what you've been through.
God only knows what they say about you.
God only knows how it's killing you. Is there a kind of love that God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. God only knows what's going on. Is there a kind of love that God only knows? God only knows what you've been through. God only knows what they say about you. God only knows what's going on. Is there a kind of love that God only knows? Is an awesome God He reigns from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God.
Alright, I will be performing a song that I just kind of came up with. I can play by ear pretty well, also sheet music. But I also do want to take this time quickly to kind of plug in my singing club. I'm the president, and Mr. Philibert over there is the advisor. And so we are kind of here, I guess, to kind of host and facilitate a safe environment to kind of, I guess, enhance engagement through music and performance. So if you guys are interested in that, you're more than welcome to come and talk to me or Mr. Philibrook. Yeah.
welcome to the stage our local violist, resident violist here at Minnesota North College, Josie Boucher. And you may not know that we have a orchestra program here in Grand Rapids. Josie, how long have you been a part of the orchestra?
This is my 4th year, so I'm still kind of a beginner, but
4th year,
yeah.
great. We'll give her a hand, thank you. this looks like I'm going to play and sing. I'm not. I'm not talented enough to do those two things at once. Not yet. Maybe next talent show. Before I play, I want to again just thank you for coming and let you know that afterwards we invite you to join us for cookies and lemonade in the art gallery, and there's a new show of my students' work. I'm Chelsey, by the way. I signed my artwork Chelsey Jo. I teach art, that's why that's relevant. So I just have some noodling for you on this and a bit of a song that you might recognize. And if I get brave, I'll sing something. Struggle and fight, trying to get it all right. I push away the very thing I want, thinking it's all up to me, deciding how it will be, forgetting that I'm guided by the one. And I forgive myself over again, 'cause I'm doing the best I can. There are no mistakes, I learn every day, and the universe is showing me the way. And I'm giving up the need to know it all before. I am mastering the art of letting go, 'cause I was put here for a reason, doing the best I can. There are no mistakes, learn every day, and the universe is showing you the way. The universe is showing you the way. The universe is showing you the way. I'd like to invite all the performers up on stage with me one last time for a round of applause, please. Thank you again so much for making some time in your day. And thank you. Give it up for our performers. All right, please join us in the lobby. Thank you.